We could have played you our usual promo video. The one that shows how Tjekvik's self-service technology helps customers check in from home, drop off and collect their vehicles with ease, and streamline every step of the after-sales journey. But we decided to go another way and celebrate some of the outstanding results our customers have achieved this year. At Hartwell Group, an impressive 85% kiosk check-in rate year-to-date means over 28,000 customers have used self-service, saving service advisors hours each day and easing peak time queues. At LSH Auto Mercedes-Benz in Stockport and Birmingham, more than 4,300 customers checked out digitally. That's 36% of all visits, creating a smoother process and easing pressure on the after-sales team during peak collection times. BMW Group generated over 371,000 added value sales through Tjekvik, delivering fantastic ROI and thousands of upsells every month with minimal effort. Across Group 1, more than £3.9 million in pre-authorised work was processed, saving valuable time for service advisors and driving greater workshop efficiency. At Lloyd Group, more than 2,000 vehicle valuation requests generated an average of 28 qualified leads per site per month, turning self-service data into real sales opportunities. Over 6,600 fewer cars were cleaned at John Clark this year, made possible by customers choosing to opt out during home or kiosk check-in, a simple feature that's reducing costs and cutting environmental impact. Across the UK and beyond, dealerships are transforming their after-sales operations with Tjekvik. But don't just take our word for it.
We have seen some significant gains in those businesses that operate digital check-in, and not surprisingly, we've got a rapid program of introducing more digital check-ins across the sites that currently don't have it.
Tjekvik. Self-service. Simplified.
Okay, are we ready to go? Brilliant. Okay, so good morning everybody. I'm Aimee Turner from AM. Today we're talking about optimising workshops. Are we doing enough? Are we seizing every opportunity? We'll dig into after-sales best practice from front of house comms to back of house efficiency. And then we'll open the floor to your questions for the last quarter of an hour. Okay, so our panel today is an esteemed panel of after-sales specialists. Okay, they're going to introduce themselves with a little wave. So we've got Katherine McLoughlin, Head of Sales at LSH Auto. Tonks, Group After Sales Director from Pentagon Motor Group. Nick Pratt, Chief Commercial Officer at Tjekvik. And Nick Franklin, Strategic Project Director at Vertu. Dale Wyatt, known to many people as an automotive consultant and former Suzuki brand leader. And sitting next to me, Amanda Newport, previously Group After Sales Director at BMW Group Park Lane. There you go. So thank you all for being here, panellists. So let's set the context. The UK car park is ageing, the EV mix is challenging, technicians are scarce and customers are increasingly price sensitive. The question today is how should dealers redesign operations to keep throughput high, first time fix strong and every visit maximised. So because we've got so many panellists, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to direct the questions to panellists who have that specialism to answer. Okay, so our first theme, redesigning workshop operations as the park ages and EV changes the tech mix. Okay, Katherine, start us off. What have you changed in workshop allocation in terms of skill mix, job planning, physical resources in the last 12 months?
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here. I think for me, the one thing that probably underpins it all, I really would like to kind of mention first and foremost, because I think we really need to move away from talking about things and start talking about people. And that's quite controversial saying that at AM Live with lots of people here with things. And when we walk around the stalls today, you'll see lots of innovation, which is definitely at the cutting edge in our industry. All things. And then when we go back to work tomorrow, we're going to be talking again about things. We're going to be talking about service desks, bays, ramps, parts, numbers, KPIs. And I think the one bit for optimisation for me is the bit that sits central in the middle, our greatest commodity, which is people. And it's going to underpin everything, because this innovation, which we need to utilise, will only work if we're really supporting our people through the side of change that's related to them. And for me, that's what we've been focusing on this year, and that's what's provided us optimisation. It's the culture of change within our business, because when change comes, we kind of get to the point of that change curve where we go through exploration, we kind of go to shock, denial, then we get into anger, and then when anger happens and our people kind of hit that resistance, we all kind of scurry away and think, oh, that's a little bit hard to deal with. And for me, if we really want to optimise performance, we've got to get our people on board with change and really see that anger side that comes next before the exploration is absolutely the green flag towards optimisation. Yeah. So I think it's probably not a tangible thing that I'm going to give you as far as one area, but people are your greatest commodity, and for me, really focusing down on that will help everything else that you enhance around it. And certainly looking at some of the things that we've been working with Tjekvik and Nick on is we get our best results where our people are engaged, right? Yep. So it does speak volumes.
Great, thank you. Neil, at Pentagon, how have you sequenced workflows to mirror the changes in the market in the car park?
The workflows, obviously, the loading of the workshop is absolute paramount importance, and the skill set within in the workshops. And following on from what Katherine says, we've got to get the right people and obviously get them trained, and we need the right systems as well to do that. We've got some great products out there, but they're still not delivering what we really need it to do. So in terms of scheduling, it needs to be really automated and work with our providers to understand the vehicle, do some predictive modelling as well when those vehicles need to come in, and obviously allocate it into the right bay, not just the technician, so it'll be a bay as well. So the scheduling, same as an airline industry, scheduling those spaces or those seats is absolutely paramount importance. But obviously going on, yes, you've got to get the technicians trained up. The amount of training days some of our vehicle technicians have to do these days is phenomenal, and that's an important part of it as well. So we can train our technicians so we can actually schedule the work, because otherwise you end up with long lead times on the diagnostics, and you've obviously also got to look at the reward and recognition as well, which is one of the things what we're looking at as a group, is having a platform so every member of staff can see there's a reward and recognition throughout the business.
How are you finding the balance to accommodate ICE vehicles at the same time that you've got EVs, and you want to make that customer experience a good customer experience? How are you achieving the balance between those two? Yeah,
it's obviously a challenge. It goes back to obviously the skill as well in terms of the diagnostics of it. So it is a balance. It is a challenge at the moment in time. But it just goes back to that training to get those technicians trained up and having that time to do it. But then it goes back to the basics of budgeting as well, in terms of the training days that are allowed. So the historical 2 or 3 days per annum is just absolutely out the window. So we have to obviously have a look at that. But technicians, in terms of, are looking for a career path as well, not just looking at the pit lane, and that's really important. So one of the things that we're doing is, as soon as we get a technician taken on board, we actually do a career path or training path for them straight from day one, because we believed in them enough to recruit them from day one. So let's get the training set up as well, and then let's obviously fast track that training. Right, okay, thank you.
So Dale, speaking as a consultant, you've been very, very involved in the manufacturing side and entry into service of new vehicles. How would you say that the secret of keeping EV after sales jobs profitable?
Thank you. I do a lot of work with RWA Automotive, who provide a lot of data. And one of the things that we find is getting the right car in the right bay with the right tech is important. Yeah. Idle time is still a big issue. And if we're going to get serious about EVs, we need to improve efficiency. And a 1% improvement in efficiency is worth £12,000 on the bottom line for the average dealer. So incremental gains are really important.
Yeah.
So I think get the right person with the right car in the right bay is a key driver for profitability. I don't know what you think, Neil.
Yeah.
So in
Brilliant.
terms of, we've got a program, overall efficiency uplift program in place, which is all encompassing. It's all facets of the business, in terms of obviously all the personnel, which is a major part of it. But we've had an uplift. We've seen a 7.1% uplift in overall efficiency, which is actually quite phenomenal. I can't say we've done anything really revolutionary. We've just looked at the basics actually and see what we've been doing as a business or the industry has been chasing hours. So what we've got to do is obviously find those lost hours where the inefficiencies there and save those hours where we're wasting time. So getting rid of the friction in the business. The net result is the overall efficiency goes up to, quite a dramatic amount, and I'm sure as many people in this audience know, 7.1% improvement is phenomenal.
Yes.
In terms of profitability of the business. Yeah.
Yes.
But you've got to have the plan. If you haven't got a plan, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. Okay, so Amanda, I'm turning to you now.
Thank you.
Give us the one pitfall you see repeatedly when groups reorganise a workshop for EVs.
I think being in a business where actually EV's been part of our lives for such a long time, being Central London based, I think actually it's something we've had to deal with quite early on. So I think a lot of dealers are still starting to try and navigate that, or in the middle of navigating that. But I think for us it's about understanding what infrastructure you need to support the EVs, support the customers, but also what you can do with those EVs that maybe move away from what you would traditionally do in terms of things like electronic vehicle health checks and stuff like that. But I think what's really important is making sure that actually not only are you training the technicians that you've got across EV, hybrid, and obviously ICE, because ICE will be around for some time, but actually also making sure that you're bringing new people into it, because actually what we know is that there's such a shortage of technicians, and actually you can't leave it to another group or another brand to actually resolve that for you. And of course the problem is if you do, you end up paying a lot more for the technicians, it erodes your gross profit, and it's a problem. So I think actually focusing on the programs that will help support EV, actually looking for apprentices, actually going out there and bringing those people into the industry at the right time, training them, but also training your staff, your technicians to a level where they can work on anything. Because one of the biggest impacts I see, certainly or saw in Central London, was that if you have lots of different work coming in, what you don't want to be doing is having to wait for a technician that's trained to be able to do that job. So what I did was actually made sure that the technicians we had all the relevant qualifications and that we trained them to that level. So we had a number of master technicians, not just the one master technician, but a number of senior technicians. And so actually making sure that they can actually do pretty much 95% of the work, because it saves you having to take cars in and out of the workshop. So for example, if a car comes in for an MOT, it's an electric vehicle, and it needs a windscreen and it needs some tyres. What you don't want to be doing is having to bring it in and out of the workshop. What you want to be able to do is give it to one person, which had a massive impact on our efficiencies, our productivities, and also massively reduced our idle time. So I think it's really just about making sure that you're training people so that you can gain those efficiencies.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you, Amanda. It's really coming that employee workforce theme is coming out really, really strong, isn't it? Just to go to identifying and capturing additional work without eroding the trust of your existing customer, I'd just like to turn to Neil. What does a perfect pre-authorization look like? Is it price guardrails? Is it, how are you going to get the customer on your side?
It's all about trust. Looking at our customers, the profile of our customer base, they're aged from 35 to 70, which is quite a broad spectrum actually, the brands that we represent. And so it's understanding what those customers want. In the main, yes, they want trust. They understand the technical capability of our technicians, which they do. They want the convenience, they want the communication. But it all comes back to that trust, and there's lots of trust breakers in the chain that we have that can break down that. So if you want that pre-authorization, you've got to build the trust first and foremost.
Yes.
Then you'll get. Once the customer trusts you, and you're obviously highlighting the required identified work, then the customer will give a pre-authorization. And but we've obviously also got a challenge coming up that yes, we can get the pre-authorization, but obviously July next year, the buy now, pay later legislation changes. So that'll be an interesting development. So the customer can spread the payments. But yeah, understand your customers effectively. What do they want? Understand that. Then obviously they begin to trust you as well.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, so Nick, with your sponsor hat on, where do digital check-ins and self-service kiosks actually lift value? Is it more than just upsell?
It's more than upsell. It's absolutely more than upsell, and it resonates with things that Catherine's talking about people. We face as an industry challenges with recruiting technicians. We face the challenge with, as an employer, with increased cost. And so what self-service can do, it can do a number of things. It can actually prepare the work so you get more efficient with that. So customers identifying items that they want to buy, that means you can then prepare the repair order, you can get the parts ready for the technician, which addresses the issue about idle time, so you're making your technicians more efficient. At the same time, it can actually, through self-service, mean that the service advisor is less stressed, and the service advisor's got more time to spend with those customers that need it, because those who want to self-serve can self-serve. So digital self-service is not about forcing something on a customer or forcing something on the team. It's about providing an opportunity for the customer to choose how they want to interact with the business, freeing time up for service advisors and making the processes more efficient. The other thing I would say that resonated when you were talking about this, about the people element, is something that Nick, with working with us, has been really instrumental with, is about bringing the people on the journey. If you force someone to do something, then it's something that they are not engaging with willingly, and then you get that anger element in there. So one of the things that we're really conscious of and working with our customers is making sure that the service advisor is engaged and they know and understand how this is going to benefit them. So that's really, really important, because it's a really, really stressful part of their role.
I think that's a really good point that Nick makes around taking your colleagues along the journey with you. When we first put in self-service kiosks, particularly service advisors, they look at it and go, oh my God, they're going to replace our jobs with these kiosks. What am I going to do? Well, actually, it's really important to understand there's still a job of work to do to look after those customers, even though you've got the self-service journey. And it's been a really interesting journey with Vertu in the last 3 years. Thinking about where we started when we originally put the self-service kiosk in, where we were seeing maybe 20% of our customers use those self-service kiosks, to today where we're at between 38 and 40%, and we've seen that gradual improvement. And what's really interesting is that service advisors are seeing the value in it now as well, because it's freeing them up to do other parts of the job that they're paid to do. One thing that we've really focused on within Vertu in the last 3 years is educating customers in a really nice way. So customers that do walk past the kiosks, it might be my dad, for example, who's an 80-year-old guy. If you ask him to use a self-service kiosk, I'm not using one of those things. Well, true story, I took him in, I showed him how to use it. He goes, no, show me how to use it. Actually, it's really quite easy, so I probably would use it. So it's about educating customers in a really positive way, rather than someone sat on service desk going, sorry, I haven't got the time, go and use one of them. And that's been a really important part of our evolution in the last 3 years.
I agree. I think it's about creating an environment to enable the team to perform. I think if you can free up time to enable them to perform, you can make a big difference. And I think the cultural change is something that a lot of suppliers underestimate, a lot of dealers underestimate. You think a new process is going to solve the problem, but unless the employees are engaged, it's not going to work.
I think it's the what's in it for me. So really getting into the people of the customer, so what's in it for them, but also what's in it for the employees. And I think a lot of the times, and I think something that the Nick's team do really, really well is discussing that change management curve and getting through that. And I think that's one piece of advice to everyone is to really kind of get your teams understanding what change management is and pushing through, because otherwise you're just going to have all this innovation sat here and you're really not going to optimise it to the best of its abilities. And touching on just the communication side, that it's really important about the softer communication as well and the signposting, because we keep our customers and our employees in the here and now while we're looking up. And I think that signposting bit where we give them the information of what the day is going to look like, how we're going to, really just helps instead of then at the time doing that softer pre-authorisation. You've really got to earn the right for them communication channels. And I think doing some of the softer bit is good as well. And linking in with what we said about the apprentices, you know, how many of our technicians really understand what the EV mandate is? What's in it for them? You know, do they understand the journey we're going through? It's great that we do, but ultimately to bring them on the journey with us, they really need to understand some of the bigger level, higher topics to really kind of engage and drive that communication as well.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. My next question was actually speaking directly to that, is how do you appear not to be pushy? For the customer? You know, how do you actually maximise but give it the soft touch? How is it? What is the secret to it?
It's earning the right to ask for the business, surely, and I think that comes by having a relationship. It's all about customer relationship management, and we were talking over breakfast this morning saying that a lot of the time we leave the communication right to the very last minute when it's really urgent that we need to kind of explain, you know, that visual health check. You know, it's a 2 o'clock call to say that your pads are 90% worn and we need to change them, and it never really lands that well, does it? So it's all about, for me, it's the preempting. It's building a relationship with a customer miles before the journey happens, on touch points on what to expect during the day, you know. So talking about visual health checks, it could be about communicating to your customers for no other reason than providing the information of what that is and earning the right. And we were flipping it over to sales and saying, if you're looking at finance maturity leads and you're ringing a customer 3 months before the finance is due, the likelihood is you're too late and you've not earned the right to ask for that business. So moving it back and having them, you know, integral conversations about nothing apart from just building a relationship is really important.
And it's how you use the software to do that. So one of the things that we did again with Nick at Vertu is we've moved out the time when we actually communicate initially with the customer. It's sequenced with what the real booking conversation is, but then when you're asking the customer to do the digital home check-in, you're doing that up to 5 days in advance. If they then do that home check-in, the communication doesn't need to exist afterwards, and actually organising yourself so that you're not hectoring a customer, you're just going through that process and using the technology for the benefit of the customer, but also so that when you've got someone doing a pre-call, they're not going, well, I've already checked in. So actually looking at that.
Yeah, I think it's a balance between using digital tools, which are obviously critical in today's marketplace, but also, as you rightly say, by having that customer touch as well, that human interface. And it's finding the balance between the two, isn't it? You know, we focused in the last 3 years very much digitalising as much as we can within the Vertu after-sales journey, but you've still got to remember there's a customer at the end of the day, and it's about giving the customer the choice. So as much as we've engaged with the self-service journey in after-sales, it's not for every customer. Some customers still like an arm around the shoulder and a chat with the service advisor, and that's fine, but it's making sure you're maximising that opportunity. You talked earlier about things like communication around visual health check. Super important that they don't just necessarily get a video, they might need to get a phone call as well to support that, so you've got that human touch as well. So you can use the digital technology for things like send them the video, let them choose the work that they want to do, let them authorise that, but we find it super important to have that human touch as well.
I think it's really important to make sure that, I think one of you mentioned that about giving customers choice, and I think that's what's really important, is actually establishing through programs and things like Tjekvik how your customer wants to work with you, how they want to communicate with you, because I think things like Tjekvik are perfect for signposting what their customer journey looks like, and then they know what to expect. Also, it helps with some of that communication, some of the more difficult things around EVHC, upsell, but also actually making sure that you can actually use the tools you've got to communicate with the customer how they wish to, because there's lots of customers of varying ages. Some of us, are busy and prefer just to get something that's automated, whether it be something via WhatsApp or a WhatsApp type platform. Some of us prefer to check in online. Some of us want to speak to the customer. So I think it's about trying to find a way that we capture how does the customer want to communicate with us, and actually giving the customer those service offerings that they can communicate with us in a way that works for them. And when you talk about things like EVHC and upsell and the future, it's actually about looking at what other things can you sell the customer that aren't necessarily, we talked about customers feeling reassured that we're actually, we're value for money. And it's about saying actually there's lots of things that in a dealership that we should really be doing, and if we're not doing things like windscreens, tyres, and actually anything we can offer a customer, we need to be looking at how we do that, because as you say, with EV coming, there are going to be changes, there is going to be less. It's how do we make that more, how do we create more revenue with the same number of cars? Because one of the issues that a number of the dealerships have got is there's only so much space to park the cars. So it's about how do we offer that, whether it's while you wait, whether it's a customer wants to talk to you or just wants the car picked up. So I think it's really important to establish how that customer wants to communicate, what that customer wants their service to look like. Some people don't want to come to the dealership, they want their car collected. Some people want to come to the dealership, they want to talk to somebody, some people don't. So I think it's really important now that we look at what services we can offer, what customers want, and defining what that process looks like depending on what type of customer you are. And I think that's something we've got to get on top of now, I think.
It's a mindset shift. It's a duty of care, it's not a health check, it's a duty of care. And at the moment, the stats say that 82% of customers get a VHC. So almost 1 in 5 customers don't get checked, which is not a duty of care. We're not looking after our customers. 100%. And a 1% improvement in VHC checks is worth £6,000 on the bottom line. So it feeds the customer and it's good for you as a business. So why not do it?
I had a conversation the other day and someone said, with EVHC becoming something of the past, and I was a bit kind of taken back. So I was a bit like, no, it's going to change. It's not going to go away. You've got to look at, from a duty of care point of view, when those cars come into you, you're the trained people, you're the experts. You're required to make sure that that car's roadworthy, safe, and that you've done everything that needs to be done. So it really is about understanding what that EVHC process now looks like going into a new time with new products.
Important point in terms of duty of care for customers. We've sort of shifted our focus so much into VHC now, and where we've got customers where we do recognise red and amber work, obviously we're going to present that to the customer in not just from the See It Now video that we use, but also physically. But we also give the customers the opportunity to take advantage of an interest-free payment scheme, which is what you were talking about earlier. I know there are companies out there like Bumper that do that. We've built our own product on that. But I think from an advisor perspective, it's again changing that mindset from you're not just presenting something to a customer here to try and drive average invoice value. You're presenting something here that potentially could save lives. And that's where I think the mindset shift needs to come. And when you talk about, 1% change makes a difference to the bottom line, but 1% might save another person's life, and that's super important.
It's a longer term. I was going to say it's a longer term investment as well, because right now what we're talking about is communicating with customers that have had work identified. But what about the customers that haven't had work identified? And what messages are we giving them? Is it the building the trust to say this year, I'm pleased to tell you that your car's got a fantastic bill of health. That builds trust.
Yeah.
There for me are the conversations that really matter, because then next year when the vehicle does come up and it has got red work on, the opportunity to sell that customer is, the chances have just increased massively, because they already know that that's not your agenda. Your agenda, as you're right, is that mindset shift to talking about work that's essential and is required, that is a duty of care, but at the right time.
I'll just add to that if I could, in terms of, I don't particularly want our service consultants to actually sell. What I want them to be really good at is communication and actually informing the customer. They can make an informed decision to buy, really. That's where the real skill is. But to get to that stage, we need to understand where their weaknesses and their strengths are, where the development. So every service consultant really needs their own bespoke training course, which is actually possible now because there's products out there with like CX that transcripts the conversations with our customers. You can understand where perhaps they need development, and that's a really important thing. You can mould that around what the customer needs are. So that's really important. Everybody said about communication, but they've got to explain to the customer what those benefits are and why they actually need it, and then they'll make an informed decision to buy.
Which brings me on to my last question brilliantly. I just put, our advisors equipped with the right tools to convert inquiries into completed jobs. And you were talking about your customer relationship, customer experience, training. What is that one piece of tech that you wish every service advisor had on their desk?
I don't think there's a silver bullet for that.
Well, okay, the best bullet.
But I think what there needs to be is you need to be able to get the right information to the advisor as quickly as possible, and then have the right mechanism to transfer that across to the customer in a way that is supportive of where they are. And so one of the biggest failings of the franchise network is every technician is trained to look at that vehicle as if it's new, and then to replace and to tell the customer it needs to be rebrought to the new level. Whereas a non-franchise sector, what they look at is to say that is commensurate with the age and mileage of that vehicle. So you get a lot more amber items in there and explaining that. So it's giving the service advisor the right information. It's making sure that they've got things as simple as, we have that part available, or I can get that part available for you in that time, and then making sure they've got the right mechanism to reach out to that customer in there. Be that a video with a self-explainer on there about why you should change your tyre, or making sure they've got the right phone number to call that customer and go through that dialogue with them, or even being able to take the customer into the workshop and show them. So there's all those different elements in there. There's not one single piece of technology, but it's making sure that the service advisor is armed with the right tools to do that, and critically, they have the time to do it. That's one of the most important things.
I genuinely believe that there's actually two silver bullets that you actually genuinely can equip your service advisors with. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. And the first thing's skill, and the second thing's will.
Yeah.
Because we can provide them all the training in the world. If they don't know why they're doing it, what's the bigger picture, what's the result of this, there's absolutely no point. So for me, the two biggest service advisor bullets that you can have is skill and then the will. Why am I doing it? Why do I need to sell this? What's in it for the customer? What's in it for me? What's in it for the business? The triple win. So I think for me, that's the big thing. If your team don't know what the will is, if they haven't got no will, because you can train them to the hill, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. Yeah. You've got to give them the motivation.
I think it goes back to getting rid of the friction, to be fair, from the service advisor point of view. If you go in most service departments, certainly franchise, they've probably got 11 different software systems open. And I think that's a conservative number. They just want one dashboard, one system, one hub, but it's all there at their fingertips, and they can do it and just work hard to simplify. And I'm not sure we really came up with the quote, but it's really hard work simplifying things. And the automotive industry, certainly in after sales, is so complicated to get the job done. It's incredibly difficult. So my challenge is to the software providers out there, and we all know who they are, who provide that service, is to provide that one dashboard where those APIs, all that information is coming to that dashboard. And obviously then they've obviously got the quotes, they've got the service plan quote from the customer, everything is there at their fingertips, and create that efficiency and those lost hours of administration.
I think that's where programs, particularly with AI, will come into their own for service consultants or service advisors, whatever you call them. Because actually, where they don't perhaps know what, how many mil, what does that mean on a set of brake pads, or how many mil on a tyre, or what does that mean for the customer? If it's red, if it's amber, why is it red, why is it amber? And I think for consultants to be, actually be able to talk through that process in the right way and feel assured that they know what they're talking about, I think AI is going to be big for that, because what it will do is it will take the information with some parameters, and then it will actually give you those tools and what you should be saying and how to explain to a customer. So I think software that starts to deliver that will be big for us. I think, particularly with consultants. I think so, because when you look at communication tools, and there's lots of them out there now that have a WhatsApp style version. One of the big things about the communication tool is that AI will take a really quick view of all of the information and say, this customer's contacted us for 3 things, and this is what they're after, without having to trawl through lots of information. So having an AI tool that says, actually, this is what's on the customer's car, and this is what they need, it will allow them to be able to sell that in a better way. But I think from a business point of view, just moving away from the customer for a minute, it's what we now do with that information. So if you've got cars coming through and they've got red work, that's fairly easy because you're saying to a customer, actually, you need that work done. But when it comes to amber work, what are we doing with it? There'll be a lot of dealerships that are doing nothing with amber work. There'll be a lot that are trying to sell it up front. There'll be some that are saying, actually, you're going to be back with us in 3 months, so you might as well have it done now. But when there are things that are over 3 months, is how do we capture that? And there are a lot of companies now starting to provide retention services that will look after amber deferred work and then follow that amber deferred work up and bring that vehicle back in. Not necessarily to say, actually, we said you probably need brake pads in 6 months' time, but actually bring it in from a duty of care. We'll do another EVHC check and we'll tell you what needs to be done in your car, and we'll do that for free on the basis you know you're going to get some work out of it. So I think we need to start looking at what do we do beyond just the car being booked in, bringing that car in. What do we then do to follow that up? And actually, what does our communication process look like through that whole journey, which, going back to what you were saying earlier, gives them confidence that they're in the right place and they're in a place where they're going to be looked after.
That's been brilliant, and I've got so many more questions I'd like to ask, but now it's your turn. So we have roving mics. Do we have any questions from the audience? Sure, there's lots of after-sales professionals who want to get some golden nuggets of advice. Not yet, you may need to warm up. Oh, that was the one we won over there.
Thank you. One for Nick at Vertu. When it comes to the kiosks that you have on site, is it just the service advisors that are trained up to be able to support the customers that come in, or do you generally have everyone on the shop floor that would be able to support them?
We will train as many people as possible so that they can all serve a customer. So the original idea behind Tjekvik and our kiosk was that it would enable the extension of the service department operating hours, so a salesperson could check a customer in or check a customer out on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday. We now have 24/7. One of the best examples is in your business, where you've got the showroom hosts who are there welcoming those customers in, and then they give them the choice, because it must be about the customer choice. So enabling all the people in the dealership, from the dealer principal down to the car valet to the technician, if there's a customer there who needs help and assistance, they can go and use the system, and it's intuitive and easy to use. So it's really important about that.
It's quite interesting, specifically about Vertu and what we do. Obviously, we've got 197 different dealerships with all sorts of different brands across those dealerships. So where we have a showroom host, we'll utilise a showroom host to welcome the customer to the kiosk. If we don't have that facility, we've got dealerships that have asked sales colleagues to come in half an hour earlier, meet and greet customers at the door. It's an opportunity to talk to another customer, let them go home half an hour later at night, and they take the customers through the kiosk. And that's created great opportunity for us as well. But what's really interesting for us in terms of the self-service journey is, you see the kiosk and you think that's the be-all and end-all. That's not the be-all and end-all, that's just a part of the process. Actually, probably one of our biggest benefits is the home check-in journey, which starts at D-2, where the customer gets the home check-in, and then we can ask a number of questions which will allow us to position how we deal with that customer when they come in. And we've had a number of fantastic side benefits off the back of that. I'll just give you one example. Wash and vac. So historically, we'd wash and vac every single car that came through our service department. As soon as we started asking the question at home check-in, would you like to have your car wash and vacked? We got a surprising number of customers that said no. Initially, it was 14% of customers that said no. Now, that might be because they've got a paint protection product on the car, or they just like cleaning the car themselves. On top of that, when we started to put some more thought behind that and put some behavioural science behind that home check-in question, that number started to increase. And that we're now seeing a significant efficiency in our valeting department, because fewer customers are requesting to have their car valeted when they come in, and that all drives bottom line. So that's one of the side benefits that we've had from utilising the self-service journey, that doesn't directly affect the actual service itself on the day, but does have a wider impact on the business.
Do we have another question? Oh, one in the front.
Yeah, I think just sort of broadly, I'd be really interested as to what you think is kind of one thing that's going to be make or break for after sales departments in the next 10 years, as to, you know, what's going to see dealerships succeed and what might be a real challenge if dealerships don't adopt in the coming years.
Well, big thing for me in terms of if we don't adopt is data. And that's about understanding the customer as well, the data of the customer, what you've just said as well. So for instance, when we sell a vehicle, we should understand that customer's needs. So if they want to use the check-in, if they don't want to wash and vacuum, we should know that in advance. So I don't know how many audience members here, working in dealerships. Every day, do you get up and you know your data is 100% accurate? So in terms of the customer sold the vehicle, you know that. Is the data registration correct? Is the private plate been done? If it's the new oil going forward, actually, to be fair, I know we looked at data in the past, but it's so critical going forward. So if you get the data correct, then you can do the AI predictive as well, servicing, and everything that goes with it. So it's all about understanding the customer's wants and needs, and also in terms of our contact centres, making sure we're not trying to contact customers, we haven't even got the vehicle anymore, etc. So it's customer data, accuracy of data, and how fast we use it as well before it goes out of date.
Yes. Okay. Another question. I've got a blinder for you. Can I ask my question first? How are you pricing ADAS calibrations so they're transparent and accepted first time? This will be the acid test of how well you know your customers, won't it? Neil, what do you think?
Sorry, I couldn't hear all that. I do apologise. ADAS.
So how are you pricing ADAS calibrations? And are you finding them accepted by the customer? Because there's something new.
It is new, and it's definitely a growth area, no doubt about it. And it's obviously educating the customer, obviously how important that, obviously the calibration is absolutely bang on, and it's getting that over. It is quite expensive from the customer's point of view, so there is a challenge on that going forward. But we need to work hard on that. I haven't got the exact answer. I'm just going to be absolutely honest on that one. Yeah, it's something obviously. Yeah, we've got to overcome that challenge.
Yes, gentleman at the front here would like to ask a question.
Thank you. You touched on booking teams and optimising and going right to the start of the journey. Where do you think the biggest opportunity is with booking teams in the future?
I think for me, booking teams is something that I've worked with for a long time. So I started my career as a team leader in a booking team and then nationally supported an OEM with contact centres. For me, the biggest thing about your booking team that you need to work with is agility. Because everything in after sales in our processes is so rigid. We put a process in and it stays there forever and a day and probably sits quite close to the fax machine that's gathering dust under your parts department. So what I would say is that agility, you've got to bend and flex with customer needs. Certainly 6 months to 12 months ago, predominantly a contact centre call flow would be 70% inbound, 30% outbound. That's really took a change now. And inbound calls are really reducing, which puts a lot of kind of more impetus on outbound proactive contacting to get them customers in. No day's the same, and if you create a structure in your contact centres that means that you do the same thing day in, day out, you are never going to maximise opportunity. So really look how you can bend and flex and be agile within your contact centres to really get the best performance.
Just to add something to that, I think the other thing is making sure that the people who are operating the contact centre have the best available information about those customers' wants and needs. Picking up on what Neil said about, do you know that customer doesn't want a car wash, so therefore you can actually factor that in. Do you know that customer wants a collection and delivery, so you factor that in, and then you're being aware of that. So making that all available, plus actually looking at the vehicle. What does the vehicle actually require at that moment in time? Is there something coming up in 3 months? that's a time bound that you could be adding into that booking at that point, because that is what will annoy the customers if they come in and then you say, oh, can you come back in 3 months and have that done? So it's providing that information flexibly to the contact centre team so they can meet that customer's needs in one hit.
You know what, that's such a good point, Nick, because when I'm thinking about this, like connected car information is so important. And we were talking before about providers of software and the integration. I think there's so much investment that's required by our DMS providers to work with our OEMs and really getting some transition on connected car information and to get the very best, because if you really want to maximise opportunities within your contact centre, that connected car data is so important. And I believe there's still work to do. And I think until we really force that agenda of really making sure that all dealer management suppliers have that integration and invest the money within the OEMs into the connected car information, we're really going to struggle moving some of these things forward, especially when we look at work bay efficiency all the way from contact centre efficiency as well.
To help the contact centres though as well, in terms of, it starts with the sale of the vehicle, and there's no good reason why we don't actually try and book the next 3 services for that customer. Currently our DMS won't allow that, but that needs to change. So in the next 3 years, if it is time and mileage, we should be able to book that customer in. It might be a provisional booking date, and then the contact centres are actually contacting the customer to make sure that date's still okay, so it's not it's not a shock in terms of the call, and that will make life easier. So I know other industries do that. Apparently the hairdressing industry, apparently I hear that they will book you for the next hairdressing appointments always and book you in advance. And it's just, we've got to look at the basics of what we do. Why don't we actually do that and book those customers for the next 3 services? Because that would be the lifespan and probably the age they'll have the vehicle for.
Would you offer a discount for booking the next service?
That's a whole different subject on discounting.
And then, put that together.
I'll get a glass of champagne, apparently, or a glass of wine.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've gained a huge insight into workshop optimisation. Please thank our panellists. Have a great day.